Abyei chukufal la janiaratin watul binda chukufal Abyei chukufal la janiaratin watul jamda chukufal Inati Abyei ngodi tirallo Abyei kinaria ben kubela ben na shira bukuen karendang fai bela ben kumim longanam dangango kinati Abyei ngodi tirallo Abyei kinaria ben kubela ben na shira bukuen karendang fai bela ben kumim ini mi mama ini mi baba ini mi mama ini mi baba umjino kenanya dinelo nanti unchenaria tonga kiting kwa kite akumjino kenanya dinelo jinji monde chenaria tonga kiting kwa kite Shagaman chiria gower pale yini na bisheng Abyei chukufal Shagaman chiria gower pinda yini na bisheng Abyei chukufal la janiaratin watul pinda yin chukufal Abyei chukufal la janiaratin watul jamda chukufal Shagaman chiria gower pale yini na bisheng Abyei chukufal Shagaman chiria gower pinda yini na bisheng Abyei chukufal la janiaratin watul pinda yin chukufal Abyei chukufal la janiaratin watul jamda chukufal Inati Abyei ngodi tirallo Abyei kinaria ben kubela ben na shida bukuen karen dan fai bela ben kumim wanga nam dangan ngo kinati Abyei e ngadi tirallo Abyei kinari ben kubela ben na shida bukuen karen dan fai bela ben kumim ini mi mama, ini mi baba, ini mi mama, ini mi baba. Umjino kenanya redineloi, nanti unchenaria tonga kiting kwa kite. Akumjino kenanya redineloi, tingchi munde chenaria tonga kiting kwa kite. Shagaman chira gower pala yini na bishing Abyei chukufal Shagaman chira gower pinda yini na bishing Abyei chukufal na jamiara bin watol pinda yin chukufal Abyei chukufal na jamiara bin watol jamda yin chukufal
I think everybody wants the same thing. The kids want to be known and heard and loved and successful. The parents want to be known and heard and loved and successful. But we're having a problem getting there, right? And so instead of getting to the place we all want to be, people are turning to things that are hurting you more, right? You're turning to things, to substances, to alcohol, to drugs, to communities that instead of helping you get to what you want to be, it's hurting you. And you're taking things, it's like you're drowning and then you're taking a brick and trying to hold it when you're turning to those things. And so I think the problem is everybody wants the same thing, but we're having trouble getting there. And I think one of the reasons is because the communities are the same, but also different, right? I know you all feel that. The parents and the kids have grown up in two completely different worlds. And so sometimes that makes it really difficult, almost as much as we are different cultures, that's like how different you are to your children sometimes. And it's how different the kids are to you. It's as much as me, a white girl, and Mr. James, right? We have the same differences as the parents do to the kids. And so it's causing some problems. And so I want to help us think about and put ourselves, and you know, I help Americans do this. Sometimes Americans have trouble understanding refugees. And so I have two activities. We can do maybe one now and one after we eat, but they're short, to help us understand each other. And it's some of the things that I use with Americans to help them understand refugees, okay? So the first one, I'm gonna need everybody to participate, kids especially, okay? It's a game for you too. Okay, so what we're gonna do first, hopefully this activity is gonna help parents understand the kids just a little bit better. And so when you ask the question, what is so hard about going to school? What is so hard? We gave you food, we gave you clothes, we gave you a house. What is so hard about being in school? Well, I wanna help the parents understand that it can be hard sometimes and what's hard about it. Okay, so you got your two hands, so I'm gonna need everybody to use your two hands. If this applies to you, you're gonna put up a finger and another finger and another finger and another finger and another finger. And the fingers are like bricks. You know what a brick is? They're heavy, like a stone, okay? And then you're gonna see at the end of the game who has all these bricks they're trying to carry around, all these things they're trying to carry around that are heavy when they're trying to do the things that everybody wants them to do. Okay, so you're ready. So I want you to put up a finger if the first day you went to school, you understood nothing because of the language, Okay, so who does that apply to? You went to school your first day, you understood 0. Okay? Okay, put up another one if you were the wrong age for your grade. So you were supposed to be in some grade, but you were in a different grade, you were the wrong age. Okay? Put up another one, this might apply to everybody, if the police followed you at a convenience store because of your skin color. Okay? Put up another one if the kids made fun of you at school because of how your parents talk or dress. Kids at school made fun of you because of how your parents talked or dressed, or what the food they ate, maybe. Okay, how many, you got 4, you got 3, you got 2, okay. All right. Okay, put up another one if the teachers, they can't say your name right at school. It's everybody. They don't know how to say your name, right? Okay. Okay, put up another one if you just, even your second year and your third year, you're still confused sometimes in school because the language is still confusing, even after 1 year, 2 years, right? 3 years maybe. Okay, now this one might only be for the kids. Put up another finger if you spent most of your childhood in an apartment complex. So instead of playing in the trees and in the jungle, you played in a parking lot. Okay? All right. Put up another finger if you ever have been the only one from your country in your class. The only kid from your country in your class. Okay? All right. Okay, another one if you tasted American food for the first time at school lunch. First time you tasted American food was school lunch. Okay. Another one if kids thought you were stupid or bullied you because you didn't speak the language, because you were different. Because you were African, you weren't black or white, right? Okay, here's one. Put up another one if somebody in your family tried to solve their problems with drugs and alcohol, and you watched that when you were little. Okay, another one if you can't understand or have a conversation with your grandparents because you don't speak their language well enough. You can't have a conversation or understand your grandparents because you don't speak their language well enough.
You guys don't hear Haboba when they call you in Africa, right? Who can hear Haboba? Nobody.
Okay, another one if you've translated for your parents in any situation. You've translated for your parents because they didn't understand. Okay, another one if you've explained, uh-oh, you're out of fingers. You already have 10. You have to keep track, maybe 11, 12, 13. Okay. Okay, we just got a couple more. Okay, if you have to explain something cultural to your parents, like they were confused why somebody did something and you had to say, oh, because that's normal in this culture, right? Okay, or maybe somebody made fun of you because of the way that your food or the way that your clothes smell, because you eat different food, right? Okay, so who has at least 10 of those? 10 or more? 10 or more. Okay, who has 5 or more of those things? Okay, so most of the kids and the second generation, those are the things that they experience at school. And it's not the same as not having food, and it's not the same as being in war, but it's still hard. It's still important, and it still creates something harder for them. They're trying to succeed, but they're carrying a load of bricks around because of all these things that are happening to them every day that are hard for you to understand. And so I would just encourage the parents to think about, put yourself in their shoes and say, when they show up at school, it's, yes, they have their clothes and their food and their house, those needs are met, but there's a lot of other things beyond that that are really, really difficult. And so it's good to listen when they have those problems and to have a conversation. And instead of turning to a lecture, to understand and try to listen to them and put yourself in their shoes because it's different. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story. Time's up. You got to choose. You don't have any more time. Okay, so I have a friend from Burma. It's a different country, but it has similarities. Okay, shh, kids. Shh, shh, shh. I have a friend from Burma who was at home with her 3-year-old daughter one day while her 7-year-old son was across the town at school. Her husband was out working when an army attacked their town, coming from the direction of the school. The woman, my friend, had to make a horrible choice. Do I take my daughter and run to the school to find my son, knowing that we all may die in the process? Do I run away with my daughter to keep us both safe and just hope my son survives? Do I give my daughter to my neighbor and let them run while I find my son, knowing that I may not find my daughter again? Should I look for my husband? So when people are fleeing from violence, they have to make quick decisions that are unimaginable, that we can't even understand having to make. We've never had to make them. And so when you had to pick really quickly which things to rip up, that might be how your parents felt when they had to decide what to do next when there was war, right? So how did that make you feel? Did you want to rip up your papers?
No.
No, right? How did it, tell me in one word, don't tell me a sentence, give me one answer, one word. How did it make you feel? Hurt? Sad?
Sad.
What else? Angry? Speechless?
I just want to say something. I have a 6-year-old here. She wrote everything. And when you said pick a quick paper and tear it, the first paper she picked, it was sister. And she said, Mom, should I tear it? No. She put it down.
So how did that make you feel? Any other words to tell me how do you make that feel? What? Angry. Yeah. Makes you feel hurt, sad, angry. It's very upsetting, right? Those are some of the decisions that people have to make when they're running out of their countries. Your parents made those decisions. That's how it made them feel. They may not tell you that, but they did. Okay, so now we're going to have another 30 seconds, okay? You're going to close your papers. You're not going to see any of them, okay? So you're going to close each one so you can't see it. Fold it in half, okay? And from now on in the game, you're not going to look at your papers again, okay? You're not going to look at what they say. You don't get to see them anymore, okay? Fold them in half and don't look at them. Okay, now, without looking at what is written on any of your papers, don't look at it. Take the middle one out and throw it away. Rip it up. Take the middle paper out and throw it away. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. You're not going to know what it is yet. Just take the middle one of each color. So you should take out one blue, one green, one yellow, one pink, and throw it away. But don't look at it. Okay, so sometimes your parents, they had to live with not knowing for a very long time. With not knowing what they lost. Sometimes it was just for a short time, but sometimes they might have to live with that forever. Not knowing what disappeared. Okay, so you've lost something and you don't know what it is. How does that make you feel? Tell me one word, one word. Yeah. Tell me one word, how does that make you feel to know that something is gone, but you don't know what? One word. Lost. Frustrated, confused. What else?
Sad.
Sad. Frustrated. Do you feel like you're in control of the situation?
No.
No. Right? Somebody else is in control. You're not in control. Okay, so remember my friend from Burma that I was telling you about, right? That I talked to about a moment ago. She chose to take her daughter and run away with her neighbors to keep them both alive. Once they came to a place of safety, she left her daughter with her neighbors and she came back to look for her son, not knowing if he had been taken or killed or injured. It had been several hours since her village was attacked. She had no idea what happened to her son or her husband. She found her son. He was hurt, but he was okay. She couldn't find her husband. It would be 2 years before they would be together again in a refugee camp. So now you have to imagine sitting in a refugee camp not knowing if your brother's alive, not knowing where your mother is or if she's safe, not knowing if your home is there or if it burned down, and not knowing if there's going to be anything for you to go back to in the future. And not even knowing where you're going to be in the future. Right? So you don't even know, did your neighbors make it out safe or not? So your parents, they lived with a lot of unknown things for sometimes a very long time. Sometimes a short time, sometimes a long time. Right? Okay, now this is the last part of the activity. So Miranda and Zaina, you might help me out with this. Okay, so I'm gonna set the timer for 30 more seconds, and Miranda and Zaina might come and take one of your papers away. Okay? So if they take it, you have to give it to them. Okay? All right, so we got 30 seconds. from right now. Yeah, they're gonna they might take one, they might take them all, they might take two, they might take none. They're gonna just take a random amount of papers away from you.
Anybody has paper?
Awesome. She's hiding. No, I'm gonna take it.
Alright, got about 5 more seconds. Okay, while we're finishing up, so we can finish that up, I'm going to tell you one more story, kiddos. But you know what? Who has the better stories is your parents, so you should ask them. Okay, here's one more story. So I knew another family from Iraq. So there was a man from Iraq who told me a story of when his family had to flee. He was just a kid when his parents decided they needed to leave Iraq. That means they had to leave the country and take a boat to India. So the family put everything in the car, with everything they wanted to keep, they put inside the car. And the family had to drive across a desert road, which would take 2 days. They went on the desert road and they came to a checkpoint where some soldiers forced them to stop their car and get out. The soldiers looked through their things they had packed and they took what they wanted for themselves. And then they became angry when there wasn't enough for them. So then they held up the family at gunpoint and said, they told the father and the oldest sister to move away, and they made the rest of the family, the mother, the son, and the other daughter, get back in the car. Everyone began shouting and crying. The father spoke loudly and told everyone to be quiet. He begged the soldiers to allow his daughter to leave with her mother, but they refused. The father instructed his wife, his son, and his younger daughter to leave without them. He told his son to take care of his mother and sister. Distraught and fearing for their lives, they left. The family left on a boat, went to India, and eventually to the US. And this happened over 20 years ago, but they have never found out any information about the father or the sister. The family assures that they are dead and hopes that they did not suffer before their lives were ended. Now, I want to hear one word for how does it make you feel when somebody is taking away your papers? You don't get to choose. How does that make you feel? Powerless. What? What did they say? They said so mad. What? Hopeless. So this is an example of like losing control, right? So there's 3 different kind of main types of loss that people experience when they leave. And one is sometimes they make choices that they are forced to make that creates loss. Some is they don't know what's lost to them for a long time. And some is they lose control because somebody else takes something right in front of their eyes, right? And so, now I want you to look at what you have left. You can look at your papers now. It's the end of the game. So look at your papers. See what you have left. And see what you've lost. Right? And it's more than just people that are important to you, even though that's part of it. It's more than just stuff that's important to you, even though that's part of it. Right? It's more than just activities that you enjoy, even though that's a part of it. It's also your own identity. Some of the things that you were before, you're not those things anymore. And that makes you feel really bad, right? And so I think sometimes when parents are trying to encourage you kiddos to do what is good, they're doing it because they want, like they said, what's better for you, right? And sometimes it might not be a perfect conversation, right? And that's what we're working on, right? We want to have better conversations with each other. But part of that is to help you both understand what might have been hard about the other person's life, because it's a very, very different life that you've lived from your own kids, and that's really hard, right? So, okay, you can remember that you didn't actually really lose any of those things today, okay? You're okay. You have those things, right? But you can think about how your parents might have felt when they came to America and all the things that they lost on the way and all of the hard work that they do, even though sometimes it's kind of luxury, right? To help you succeed. Okay. That was the end of my activity.
Thank you, Ms. Caitlin. That was amazing. I just want to take this time to apologize to you guys. We were supposed to go on break, but unfortunately we started a little bit late. And our mothers are doing an amazing job and a lot of hard work trying to prepare.
Hi guys. First, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me be here. It's really good. This is a really great thing that you guys are doing. To all sit together in one room and hear the pain and the hurt from both sides and to try and work it out. We can learn so much. We have learned so much from you. But I hope and pray that other communities, including American communities, will follow this example because this is absolutely amazing. So, my name is Miranda Mathis, and I work here for the Nation's Refugee Outreach with Caitlin. And like several of you, I am also a social worker, so shout out to the social workers in this room. So good to see so many of you. As you guys know, here in America, we need you. We need more people in your communities to be social workers because you know more about your experiences and about your community than I could ever know. So you are needed and you're valuable. I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about trauma today. And I have this whole presentation that I was going to show you, but as I normally do, I have wanted to sit back and just listen to you guys. And it seems like the presentation, that's old news. You guys are so much further along. That presentation is not even going to be good. So what I'm hearing from you guys, the overarching theme that I'm hearing is that there's a lot of pain. That a lot of you are feeling pain from your experiences, whether it's pain from the parents or the grandparents that you experienced in your home countries and leaving your home countries and coming to America, or whether it's the children, the pain that you're experiencing trying to toe the line between being American and being Sudanese, because you are both. And I know, I can tell from listening that everyone, because everyone in the whole world, every single person wants to be heard and understood. And I hear that a lot from all of you, that all of you want to be heard. You want your pain and your experiences to be heard, and you want your children or you want your parents or your grandparents to understand that pain. And I hear you. I hear that. And so I think a lot of what Dr. Dow said was absolutely amazing. He did such a good job talking about social emotional issues and answering a lot of your questions. And I really want to point back to what he said about unmet needs, because that is what is happening. Is we have this need to be heard, we have this need to be understood, and those needs are going unmet. And so I want to say, before I get into a couple more things, that it doesn't need to be a competition. The pain that the parents are experiencing is just as hurtful to them as the pain that the young people are experiencing. It doesn't need to be a competition about who has endured more, because we all have pain and we all have trauma. So with that being said, I would like to just share a little bit about my story with you, my trauma story, because we're not alone in our trauma and our pain. So shout out to the single moms in here. I was raised by a single mother, and that was because my dad was not a very good person when he was younger. He was in jail or prison for most of my life. He struggled with substance abuse. He did a lot of drugs and did a lot of bad things with drugs. Was mean and abusive to my mother, to other women that he was in relationships with. And so he was not around for most of my life. And that left my mom to raise me all by herself. And as all of you know, it is very expensive to live here in America. And it was very hard for my mom to provide for me by herself. And so we were on food stamps and government assistance, and there were many months where we did not have enough money to buy toilet paper. We did not have enough money to buy soap, to pay the bills. Sometimes we went to bed with having had very little for supper. And that is the reality of growing up poor. And that weighs on a person. That is painful, that is traumatic, that is stressful. Even as a child can still feel the stress of that and the pain and the weight of that. So anyway, I'll circle back to that. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my mom and I went to visit a friend of hers who was dying from cancer. And she had a teenage son who was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. And during the time of the visit, while my mom was visiting with her friend, the teenage boy sexually abused me. And thankfully, my mom believed me. I told my mom immediately, as soon as we left the apartment, and my mom believed me. And in that moment, as an 8 or 9-year-old child, I did not understand, I didn't have the ability to deal with those feelings. And so it seemed like that wasn't an issue. I had moved on. Fast forward a few years to being in high school, and my mom, like my dad, decided that she had had enough of the pain and the stress and the hard things and trauma, and my mom turned to drugs as well. And so there were many times whenever I was in high school that I had to be the parent, that I had to take care of my mom, that I had to make sure that she didn't burn the house down when she fell asleep smoking, many other things like that. So fast forward, became an adult, got married. My husband actually was a soldier and lived in Afghanistan, fought in the war there. And through his time in the war, because Americans especially do not know what it is like to live in war, this was very hard for my husband and very traumatic. And so when he came home from Afghanistan, he had PTSD. And he would be driving down the road, he would look on both sides of the vehicle looking for bombs, looking for bombs, looking for bombs, always, because in Afghanistan this is what he had to do. And if someone would knock on the door, he didn't know they were coming, he would answer the door with a gun, ready. He was always on guard, ready. So fast forward to a few years after that, the brain, in all of its amazingness, decides when we are ready to deal with our trauma and our hard things. And my brain decided, it's time to deal with that sexual abuse. And that was really hard. So I just want to say that I have not experienced many of the things that some of you have experienced. I've never had to leave my home, give up things, any of the things that Caitlin did in the loss activity. But it is my passion to learn about trauma, to help people heal from trauma, because I know what it's like to have suffered trauma as well. So my heart goes out to all of you who have experienced trauma, who are experiencing trauma. You're not alone. Like Dr. Gal said, it's important to know you're not alone. So I know we've already talked a lot about trauma. I'm not going to cover most of this, but one thing that I do want to talk about, because I know that it has been an issue both for me personally, but also in your community, is trauma and substance abuse. You know, when it's difficult to experience trauma and to live with those effects, right? And in order to escape that pain, many people seek out drugs and alcohol. And it seems like in the time that drugs and alcohol will numb the pain that we are experiencing. It may help with the symptoms of our trauma. It may seem like it helps us to sleep, like it helps us to calm down, to feel like we can be someone who we're not. But those feelings are only temporary. And using and abusing substances often causes more trauma than it helps. And the trauma and the problems aren't just for us, but they're also traumatizing to our loved ones. Our loved ones who are having to pick us up when we literally fall down. We're loved ones who are making sure that we're not burning the house down when we are high or drunk, who become the object of our anger and our frustration. And one of the things that I really, the point that I want to get across, and Caitlin was going to cover this as well in her presentation, is that when we model substance use and abuse as a way to escape from our pain and our trauma, that's what our children learn. And even we can tell our children all day long, don't do this, don't do what I did. But when we physically show them, that is what they learn. They learn what we show them, whether we want them to or not. So it is important that we act to break this cycle, right? This cycle of pain, this cycle of substance abuse. But with all that doom and gloom, there is good news. There is good news. The good news is that we can choose to overcome our trauma. We can choose to be better people for ourselves and our families. There are so many ways, so many ways that we can do that. There is therapy, there is mentorship, there is prayer, there are coping skills. There are people in this room, in your community, outside of your community, that want to help you overcome your trauma. Okay, there's so many ways, and it doesn't have to be therapy. I know lots of people are afraid of that, don't believe in it, whatever. It doesn't have to be therapy. There are ways that you yourself, never having to step foot out of your house, can work on your trauma and overcome your trauma. And some of those ways are through things that you enjoy. It could be through journaling or writing. So writing down your feelings, writing down your frustrations, even writing a letter to someone who has wronged you. That's something that my mom always does. When she gets angry, she will sit down and just write a letter. Sometimes it's 10 pages front and back. And then she'll just rip it up or throw it away. She doesn't send it. So writing or journaling. You can paint or draw, some kind of creative expression, music, dancing, singing, whatever it is that you like to do. Exercise, reading. There's so many options outside of therapy, outside of medication, that you can utilize to overcome your trauma. So with saying that, I would like to let you know, as I said, you are not alone in your pain. And as we say in the social work field, we are wounded healers. Many of us want to heal because we have been wounded and someone has helped us heal. And so I want you to know that I am here, physically, literally here, in this building, if you need me. I have my license. I'm a licensed master social worker through the state of Texas. So I am available, willing, trained, ready to hear anything that you want to share with me, if that is something that you feel called to do. So if that is something, let me or Caitlin or somebody know, and I would love to get in touch with you. So again, I just want to thank you for letting me be here and letting me hear so much of your pain and for being vulnerable. I know it is not easy to be vulnerable, especially with people outside of your community who are in the room. So I just want to say that you guys are amazing, and I'm so thankful to be here today.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. We really appreciate you and your help and all the work that you're doing within our community. So what we're going to do next, we're going to go on break. We're gonna start with the young kids. We have staff up there ready to serve you your food. So we're gonna start with the kids. If you want to, please go through the back and make a line. And hopefully once we get the kids served.
Hey, I've been first.